Hello, and thank you for joining me today at the One Tech World Global Virtual Conference. I'm Elhannah, and I'm very glad to have you join me today. Today, we are here to discuss a fundamental evolution in how we approach artificial intelligence. We are moving beyond the technical and legalistic questions of the past into a new era of ethical responsibility. The title of our discussion is From Compliance to Conscience, Embedding Ethical Reasoning in AI Governance. Now, for years, the primary question driving AI development has been, can we build it? We focused on capability, on pushing the boundaries of what is possible. But as AI becomes more integrated into the fabric of our society, making decisions that affect lives and livelihoods, that question is no longer sufficient. The question is no longer can we build it, but should we trust it? This shift from capability to trust is at the core of our conversation today. Before we dive in, a brief introduction about me. My work is dedicated to bridging the gap between abstract ethical theory and the practical realities of AI governance. As an AI ethicist, author, academic researcher, and governance professional, I focus on value based technology research, exploring how we can embed our most important human values into the systems we create. A significant part of my work is also dedicated to social impact, particularly through my initiative, Young Tech Geniuses, which focuses on empowering girls in technology. This brings us to the strategic shift I mentioned. We are moving away from a world where the old question was, can we build it? A question rooted in technical capability and regulatory compliance, to a new mandate defined by the question, should we trust it? The old paradigm was about checking boxes, meeting legal minimums, and reacting to risks after they have emerged. The new mandate demands something more profound, and that is ethical consciousness. This means engaging in proactive moral reasoning, designing systems that are fundamentally human centric, and earning genuine, durable trust from the public. And this shift isn't academic, it is being driven by the high stake applications of AI in critical domains like healthcare, finance, and even national security. In these fields, the consequences of failure are immense. As the image suggests, AI is now at the heart of impactful decision making. Therefore, as we'll explore, while compliance ensures legality, it is ethical consciousness that ultimately ensures legitimacy and public acceptance. AI is at the core of impactful decision making in high stake domains and is now more important than ever to monitor this. So, why is simply following the law not enough? This is what I call the compliance gap. We have several important regulatory frameworks in place. The EU AI Act uses a risk based classification system. GDPR provides a strong foundation for data privacy and transparency. And in the US, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework offers a voluntary guide for managing risks. These are all crucial, but they represent the floor and not the ceiling. They establish minimum standards and are often reactive. Relying on them alone creates a significant risk of ethics washing. And that is the practice of appearing ethical and compliant on the surface without embedding true moral considerations into the system's design and function. True ethical governance moves beyond compliance, which is reactive, to conscience, which requires proactive moral reasoning and design. Legality does not automatically confer moral legitimacy. The gap between policy and practice is widening by several key challenges that the law alone cannot solve. First, ethical ambiguity. What is considered fair or just can vary dramatically across cultures and contexts, making a single universal legal standard difficult to apply globally. Second, a lack of enforceability. Many excellent frameworks like NIST are voluntary. Without global enforcement, their adoption can be inconsistent, and this leaves gaps in accountability. Thirdly, we have technical opacity. Many advanced AI models operate as black boxes. Their decision making processes are sometimes even so complex their creators cannot fully explain them. This makes it nearly impossible to conduct meaningful audits for bias or errors. And finally, we have data bias. AI systems learn from historical data. If that data reflects existing societal inequalities, the AI will learn, replicate, and even amplify those biases at scale. To see how this plays out in the real world, let's look at the Dutch Syri case, an example of how legal compliance can diverge from ethical legitimacy. SIRI, which stands for System Risk Identification, was a system deployed by the Dutch government in 2014 to predict welfare fraud. On paper, it was legally sound, it had administrative compliance, and was legally authorized at its launch. It operated by linking and analyzing government data to create risk profiles. The SIRI system was deployed in 2014 with complete legal authorization. However, the systems created profound ethical voids. Its logic was secret for its decision making, so no one knew the data sources that were being used or why someone was flagged as high risk. This lack of transparency made it impossible for citizens to challenge the system's conclusions. The system's use constituted a form of mass surveillance that was not proportional to its goal, especially given that it resulted in zero fraud convictions. It created a situation with no appeal, fundamentally undermining due process. Ultimately, a Dutch court ruled that Syri violated human rights under the European Convention on Human Rights. The trust impact was devastating, eroding public confidence in the government's use of technology. Syri was legally compliant at launch, but it was ethically bankrupt. This case perfectly illustrates our core theme. Compliance ensures legality, but only ethical consciousness can ensure legitimacy. So, if compliance isn't enough, what is the alternative? It's what we call ethical consciousness. This represents a shift from reactive rule following to a state of proactive moral awareness. It starts by changing the fundamental question from can we build it to should we build it? The strategic goal is no longer just to create a functional or profitable system, but to ensure that the system aligns with core human values, human dignity, fairness, and justice. Human dignity means prioritizing the well being, safety, and autonomy of every individual affected by the system. Fairness means actively working to identify and mitigate systematic biases, ensuring the system does not disproportionately harm vulnerable groups. And justice means building in mechanisms for accountability, transparency, and redress so that when something does go wrong, there is a clear path to resolution. Ethical consciousness is about embedding these values into the very DNA of an AI system and the organization that builds it. Now, when we look at moral reasoning frameworks, how it demonstrates how we put this into operation. We can draw from centuries of human thought on ethics by using established moral reasoning frameworks. A hybrid approach combining different perspectives allows us to move beyond purely technical metrics and ground our AI in human centered values. Firstly, we have deontology or duty based ethics. This framework focuses on rules and duties. In AI, this translates to non-negotiable principles like the mandate for informed consent and the absolute right to privacy. It asks, what are our fundamental duties to the user? Secondly, is utilitarianism, an outcome-based ethic. Its goal is to maximize overall well-being and minimize harm for the greatest number of people. This requires us to conduct thorough societal impact evaluations and weigh the potential benefits against the potential harm. It asks what actions will produce the best overall consequences. Finally, we have virtue ethics, which is a character based type of ethics. This framework focuses less on individual actions and more on the moral character of the agent, in this case, the organization. It encourages us to cultivate virtues like integrity, empathy, and responsibility within our teams and our corporate culture. It asks, what would be what will be a virtuous and responsible thing for an organization to do? By integrating all three, we create a comprehensive and robust ethical toolkit for AI governance. Embedding these frameworks requires a holistic approach that spans from ethical design all the way to organizational culture. It starts with ethics by design, where we conduct bias audits and ensure diverse data curation from the very beginning of the system's architecture. It requires continuous monitoring to track model drift and performance over time, using dynamic feedback loops to catch and correct issues as they arise. We must establish strong governance structures, such as empowered ethics boards, and they should have the authority to review, guide, and even halt high risk projects. Critically, this must be supported by cultural transformation. We need to foster ethical literacy and psychological safety at all levels of the organization so that anyone can raise a concern without fear of being reprimanded. And to address the black box problem, we have to invest in explainable AI, using tools like model cards to provide clear, auditable rationales for an AI's decision. As the quote says, ethical AI is not a static state, but a dynamic process where technical tools and values work in concert. When done right, this becomes a powerful strategic differentiator. This isn't just a theory. Leading organizations are already putting this into practice and are seeing incredible results. In healthcare, Memorial Sloan Kettering's ethical oncology decision making or decision support tool achieved a 91% success rate in identifying patients for clinical trial consultations, ensuring more equitable access to cutting edge treatments. In autonomous driving, Waymo's ethical guardian system uses a hybrid reasoning model to navigate complex ethical edge cases on the road. It has demonstrated over 94% ethical alignment in its decision making across more than 20 million miles of driving. We also see major corporate initiatives where companies are making a strategic shift towards societal benefit. Microsoft is using AI for environmental monitoring to combat climate change, while Google is applying AI for social good in healthcare and education. And the market is responding. Research shows that 70% of consumers prefer to use AI systems that they perceive as being focused on fairness. This proves that ethical consciousness is not a barrier to innovation. It is the very foundation upon which sustainable, trusted, and successful innovation will be built. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this talk resonated with you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.